All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to February and the libp2p weekly sync. Please add your notes, weekly sync notes. If you have an agenda item, add it there, and we will prioritize that. Otherwise, we will go through the weekly updates. And since there are no agenda items yet, let's kick it off with Arsh. You are muted. Silent updates.
Sorry. So on my side, I finished creating the PRs for introspection 0.1 work. Rahul is now reviewing them. I've also, finished reading all the documentation we had on content resolution to get up to speed with the plan and the issues. My focus now is going to be some libp2p bug fixes that Mike and Rahul have asked me to work on along with Youssef, and also address the introspection review as Rahul starts posting it.
Sweet. Any questions for Arsh?
Sorry, one thing to add. Rahul, I think you missed it in the chat today. There are a couple of comments I left on the core PR after you addressed the GoDoc comment. Just take a look at the libp2p.
Yeah, I saw those. Yeah, awesome. I saw those. Cool, thanks.
Okay, we did have an agenda item pop in, so we will redirect to that so we can make sure we have time to talk about that. Adine, would you like to talk about your question?
Yeah, so given some of the upcoming changes to how the DHT is working, there's this find peer function, which ostensibly helps you find a peer so that you can connect to them. How this function should work, I think, may change as a result of these other things that are going on. Right now, it's just like as soon as you hear about a provider, as soon as you hear about an ID and an address for them, you're like, okay, I'm done, and then you go home. But what if the address has been updated? So if you're interested in that question and more, then it may be relevant. I think having a discussion on Zoom instead of GitHub things will move this along faster.
And where is this discussion going to take place? Here now? Or?
I don't know, not now, because we got other things to do. But I figure we can set up a meeting sometime this week if people are game. Yes.
Yeah.
Interested to, yeah.
If you are interested in attending that, add your name under the agenda item there, and then we can coordinate a time for that. Adine, do you want to coordinate a time for that with everybody? Right. Are there any questions around that? No? All right. We will jump back into the async updates. Next up is me. So we released the JS-libp2p async refactor last week, threw that over the wall. Need to finish up a blog post for that this week. I'm also doing some profiling on the release to make sure everything is good to go. This week, I'm going to finish up that profiling and then start work on integrating the JS-libp2p noise repo that Node Factory worked on. I'm going to start working on integration with that into JS-libp2p, and then also working on JS-libp2p 2020 high-level roadmap objectives. So it should publish something that this week for everybody to publicly see. Any questions for me?
Jacob, when do we have the next meeting for content resolution estimation poker?
We'll look at scheduling something with later. I don't want to start that too soon, just because like having two meetings back to back or too close together is not going to allow us to get work done. So I want to make sure that we're not blocking ourselves on work. Cool. All right. Next up, Vashko.
Hey everyone. So I got back from holiday today. Basically today I got through my email and I synced with Jacob about some of the JS-libp2p roadmap and objectives for this quarter and then also more long-term stuff for 2020. And for this week, I want to basically get some work that I got paused when I went on holiday. I want to get the libp2p keychain code base into JS libp2p. I already revised the PR, and basically Jacob will review it, and then we will merge it this week. Also, I started working on getting the interop tests running in JS libp2p for each PR. And basically it's the same thing, revise and hopefully get it merged this week. And finally, I will continue with the Stardust refactor in order to try to get it ready for review during the next week. And that's it for me. Any questions?
Awesome. Next up, Youssef.
Okay, so I made more progress on peer records. They're very close. I missed an important piece of feedback from Raul about the API. I'm going to finish that today. And then there's peer store changes that are just another loose thread, basically. Like I got to red, green in the red, green refactor cycle, but it's all messy and way more complicated than it needs to be. So that's another hour or so today to clean that up. And then so hopefully we're thinking tomorrow, maybe Wednesday if things suck, merge in the peer record changes. So this week for sure. Then noise stuff is basically where my my head is at. Otherwise, I did some minor things. I'm actually got some numbers out of it. It looks to be a bit slower than TLS, which I think probably the majority of that is explainable by my computer having hardware AES support, and TLS is using AES for its block cipher, and we're using Chachapali, which is probably not as fast. But that's, you know, there's also lots of other stuff that I kind of want to fix up in the noise code base because it's kind of messy and hard to follow and reason about in places. And I think there's some improvements to be made there. So I might try to thread those in this week alongside other like more like quantifiable goals, which is just, well, at first there's like quantifying exactly what needs to be done before we're going to say, oh, okay, we're pretty confident about using noise in production. So I have some issues kind of loosely rolled up into milestones, but I wanted to spend some time actually reviewing that and making sure that everything is covered and that we have like a good plan that we can kind of eyeball how long it's going to take. So that once I have that all written up, you know, we'll work through it and try to get like a release candidate or like an actual something we can tag as a release for noise and start, you know, using as a dependency elsewhere. And then also bug fixing with Arch. We're going to try and coordinate on that. There's some bugs that have been open for a minute that we want to tackle. So, yeah.
Great. Any questions for Youssef?
Yes, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So, Youssef, are there any more changes to the API? Because I merged the PR in the PR for the peer records in SAB.
If there are, I will definitely check your branch and make sure if it's affected. I don't think that it is because you're not creating any peer records in your branch, and the only changed method is the one that takes an unsigned record and wraps it in an envelope and signs it. So since you're just like verifying and taking the record for like the local peer record and sending it on the wire, I think it should be fine. But I'll make sure before I merge it.
Okay, that's cool. Then perhaps when the send peer records all merge, can you make another PR that actually points to the right Go mods and everything?
Definitely.
Ready?
Yeah, totally. Let me write that down.
All right, cool. Maybe I shouldn't have merged it, but like I wanted to be usable.
Yeah. Okay, great.
All right, cool.
Sweet. Any other questions for Youssef? Nope. All right, Mike.
Oh, sorry about that. Couldn't find the window. This week, working with Arsh and Youssef on the security bug fixes. So just these are, we don't know of any exploitable vulnerabilities or anything in libp2p. but these are some longstanding things that we want to fix, and in particular, we want to publish a transparency report about bugs that have been reported. And in order to do that, we sort of need to close the loop, even on things that we don't believe are of any significance in the real world. And then some of this is like this, or next week, some revisions to the OKRs based on some new things that came up last week. And then I'm hoping to get to finally to what I thought I would be jumping into right when I came back, which is trying to build up our team and onboard more people. Yeah. And then, oh yeah, that's basically it.
All right. Any questions for Mike? Nope. All right. Next up, Raul.
Hi, everybody. Okay, so last week, most of my focus was on test ground, on landing compositions, but I did have a bunch of interviews and a bunch of meetings across the board. So that's landed now, which is great news. This week, I'm going to be focusing, or actually just like tomorrow mostly, I'm going to be focusing on closing off the whole run events, outputs, test plan, instance outputs, assets, artifacts affair. So there's a unified model because there've been like a lot of different directions that we've been taking across the code base, and this has created a bit of like spaghetti code. So there's a unified model now, and I'm working to basically create like a really solid API for that. Last week, I also attended the ETH 2.0 networking call, which was great once again. I'm going to actually paste a link to the update, which I forgot to do because I sent them an asynchronous update and just ran through it. I'll post it in a second for you guys to benefit from that as well. Then we closed off milestone 0.1 of test ground. This week, we're going to start planning milestone 0.2 with Fabio, who's a new person from Moxie that's going to be working with us as the technical project manager for test ground. So we're going to start that. We're probably going to adopt like a sprint model, Scrum-based model. We'll start experimenting with that because we've had a lot of success with the 2-week cadence. So we'll probably move in that direction. Also reviewed signed peer records, as Youssef said. There's a few things to close off there, but it looks really good, and I'm pretty sure that Youssef finishing this off would probably end up landing it tomorrow, day after tomorrow, if all goes well. So that's a great building block for the future of libp2p. Did a lot of interviews, as I said, then discuss content routing. One aspect that we identified as a preliminary dependency in the entire plan for content routing, which was getting network forming for test ground, well designed. Worked with that with Steven, and prep for the security audit, and surprise, started testing before we ran this. So ours created a script to automate the issue transfer from children repos of Go libp2p to the top level repo. And before we let it loose in our forest of issues, I decided to do some model, some real world circumstances that we find in issues. So this is PRs that link to issues, commit that link to issues that interlink with one another, and this complex graph of dependencies and links. And I decided to do some manual testing by transferring issues manually between repos, and GitHub just fell flat on its face. So basically we have 2 issues that are now 500ing all the time. So I'd open a case to GitHub and it's not looking great. So this kind of puts a stick in the wheels of our whole project management revamp planning for libp2p, because we can't have not immediately a backlog that we can reason with for now. So it kind of sucks a little bit. I'm hoping that if somebody has a contact here at GitHub, that you can pick up the phone call pick up the phone call and kind of like have them look at this, that would be amazing and put some pressure on them. Another thing is that I worked with 0x to land WebSocket secure dialing on the libp2p transport for that. I'm not sure we'll need this in JS, especially if we're shifting focus to the browser, because I mean the WebSockets APIs are what they are in the browser, so you can't really like fiddle with them a lot. We'll need to look into this. And yeah, and for this work, besides what I just said, landing the unified model for test outputs, onboarding Fabio, planning test ground milestone 0.2, I'll be doing more reviews, reviews that are halfway there and reviews that I need to start, and I'll pick up some content routing work. So for me.
Sweet. Any questions for Raul? No. All right. We are at the end of our update list. Viso, do you want to give an update?
Yeah, I didn't put it in there because there's nothing significant. So I've been working on procuring Raul's design document, which means, like working on figuring out how to test the peer scoring function. So far, I have 3 specific attacks that I want to test with simulation. So there are 3 specific scenarios we can address. So the first scenario is general squatting attack, where Sybil nodes just appear in the network and do nothing. So we need to see how well the scoring function reacts to that, to nodes that are basically just squatting the network. The second scenario is eclipse attacks against a particular node. So if Sybils appear and try to attack a particular node by performing a graft attack, so we want to see how the scoring function reacts to that. And the third scenario is more gross. It's the eclipse attack against the entire network. So basically, the attacker creates a whole bunch of Sybil nodes, and the Sybil nodes perform graft attacks against the entire network. So we're going to see how well, the scoring function performs there. So the objective of the tests and simulations is to basically figure out what are good parameters, how much time it takes to recover from this kind of attacks and perform well, and generally how robust it is. So I'm going to put those into the Google Doc. I have them in an MX buffer right now, but I'm open for suggestions for additional attacks you might want to simulate.
Sounds
Awesome.
great, Viso. Sounds like a great start. Yep.
Sweet. Any questions, comments for Viso?
Yeah, I've got one. So, Viso, do you want to start migrating any of that into the overlay document that we had, or not just yet?
I'm going to put it in the peer scoring document. So basically, the score function document.
Yeah.
So it's all collected there. Okay, and then by using simulations, we try to figure out good parameters, or at least parameters with regard to the message rates, because the parameters have to be relative to the message rate. So if you have like a high message rate network, we can have one value for the parameters. For a low message rate in the network, we might have like a different value in the parameters.
Yeah, sure. So should I just start getting that into the more paper format version that we have? That was my.
Oh yeah, well we can totally put those into the paper about specific attacks we want to address. Yeah, we can totally do that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and regarding the previous version of the description that we had in the Gossip Sub, like technical report, are we okay, you think, now to start sharing that with community, or put it on the website or anything similar?
Well, I'm okay with that. We
Not
might want to do a small.
Yeah, I was just.
We might want to do a small.
Yeah, go on.
Right, we might want to do a small update for the specific attacks, just outline, so that we actually list them as possible attacks we have considered, so that perhaps the community can come up with newer attacks.
Exactly. Yeah. So my thinking was not necessarily to put the scoring function itself on it until you decide on the final design. Just the general description of what attacks we want the system to be able to.
Yeah, we definitely want this into the paper. Yeah.
Okay. So okay, fine, good. Okay.
Did anybody else want to give an update that is not listed? No.
Yeah, just quick one from me. Not exactly an update. I've worked a little bit more on the outcomes from the workshop. You should have received a couple of emails from me. Whenever those in the workshop, and of course those that were not there as well, more than welcome to give any feedback, flag any issues, so that we can move that in parallel. That's one thing. And the second thing is there was this issue on DHT robust, Eclipse robust DHT, and there was a discussion there. I started reading through and then started doing, related work search on what exists out there. Should we, how important is this issue? Should we spend some time to try and, okay?
It was just an idea that I wanted to write down. It's not something we're tackling right now. Like, it's something we can look into. I know that we did get some feedback. I could share it separately. But yeah, like, it was just a random idea.
Yeah, okay, cool, okay.
Cool. Any questions, comments for Yannis? No? All right. If there are no other updates, once, twice, sold. There is one other agenda item from Raul.
Yeah, so I mean, it has almost gone unnoticed that the JS libp2p team released a single weight, and I think you guys, like, you were supposed to do a little celebration. Well, we were supposed to do a little celebration together.
You're celebrating by working on everything else.
No, there was a song you needed to sing, and you know which one it was. No, it doesn't need to be now. I just wanted to put this on the radar. I mean, just wanted to, like, please unmute yourselves and, like, give a huge round of applause, because this has been in the making for a long time and we finally shipped it. So please unmute and give a big round of applause to the JS libp2p team for shipping a single weight. Awesome work. And yeah, this does not liberate you from actually, recording the video.
Yeah, we'll be pushing a more public notification, but we just wanted to, we had all the bits and pieces together, so we wanted to get it out the door for all the early consumers, but we'll be doing a larger push. I don't know about the singing, but yeah. Good. Cool.
I'll keep insisting.
Okay. All right. I think that is it. Did anybody have anything else they wanted to cover or talk about?
I had a question about Kademlia bootstrapping. I'm wondering if the function as it is written currently was designed to work with the DHT as it was, or the DHT as Kademlia specifies.
Can you unpack that a little bit? What exactly leads you to ask that question?
Yeah, so I'm not sure. It walks towards itself, and then it afterwards goes and walks towards all of the other buckets. And I think it goes in sort of decreasing orders of closeness. And that seems like the wrong way.
I think that's the right way. So, like, basically we're trying to make sure each bucket is full. So we do a query in each bucket. We start by searching for ourselves, because that finds out how many buckets we expect to see. And then we walk through all, like, basically, like, it's like our bucket's going to be the furthest, and then we just keep on building them up. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm just wondering if, like, in the bootstrap, depending on how many nodes you're bootstrapping from, I feel like you may end up actually wanting to call, like, bootstrap on self more than once if you're, like, starting with, like, one node.
In theory, you shouldn't. In theory, if you call it once, it should go to the end and find everyone's close to you. If it doesn't, then there's a bug. Now, I'm not sure how we do this. We may have a bug here where like, we should probably look at like how close are our closest peers. Like, so like, instead of looking at real buckets, like, or sorry, instead of looking at the buckets we have, which is like these like combined buckets, we may want to look at like the logical buckets. That is like assuming like we have like one bucket that shares 1 bit, one bucket that shares 2 bits, et cetera, et cetera. I think that was fixed. I thought ours
Yeah,
did.
we fixed.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, just check in. I'll let you know if I find anything more concrete.
Sweet. We are almost at time. Does anybody have anything else? Last chance. All right. Dirk has notes. Find your own ID and then refresh buckets. Okay. All right. That is it. We are just at time. If you have anything else, it's too late. Go ahead and hit up GitHub. All right. We will see you all next week, and bye.
So yeah, I think go wait. So yeah.